Want to go deeper with Lobbing Scorchers? You know, scratch under the surface, get down even dirtier than we already get? Become a YouTube member. Sometimes things just get a little too spicy, a little too weird, and a little too loose for the general public. And you know, the people to see that are YouTube members. We're talking about exclusive bonus videos, the podcast after show, exclusive written content, and little bits and pieces of information before the unwashed masses know about it. As a member, you not only get access to all of this amazing content, you get a badge next to your name and a slew of amazing emotes to use, not only in our live stream chat, but also in our comment section. And yes, we do have an emote for Jesus Ferreira, Go Snack, and Paul Rothrock. This is the best way to help keep us independent and keep us building out this crazy YouTube brand that we call Lobbing Scorchers. Hit the join button down below or hit the link in the top of our description if you're on mobile to join the ranks and become a Lobbing Scorchers YouTube member.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome into another episode of Lobbing Scorchers Kickoff. I'm Ari. That's Nico. We got a great show for you all planned here this morning. We're going to be talking some Seattle Sounders versus LA Galaxy, a little game review of that. Let's call it an unfortunate ending. Got a rematch with Inter Miami and the Crashout Barca Boys on Tuesday, so that should be interesting. We'll preview that. We're going to do the goalkeeper debate. I think that's still raging on, so that's going to be a big part of the show. And then to close it out, we got it was a pretty crazy weekend in MLS, Nico. There was a couple of other kind of wild games, so we were going to talk about those at the very end. Nico, how are you doing, man? Good to be back at it with the MLS regular season.
That's right. We're back. We're resuming play in MLS. It's been fun to cover this team in a fantastic run of a tournament, but it's always nice to get back to just regular MLS coverage, especially when it's in a weekend like the one that just happened. I mean, it was 57 goals in one match day. That's wild, right? It's a record-tying type of scoring. There was a bunch of crazy games. So, man, as somebody that got to just chill Saturday and Sunday and do nothing but watch boxing and soccer, it was a good one to just chill.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to get into it with you here this morning. Before we do all that, if everyone could please like the video, get us in that algo. If you are watching and you have not subscribed to the channel, what are you doing? Toss us a sub, like, comment, subscribe, rate 5 stars, and follow us on Instagram and TikTok. And also, please check out our new vlog that we just dropped, Leagues Cup Final documentary. It's getting a good.
Oh my God, it's brilliant.
People seem to like it. It was honestly, shout out to our video guy Eric. He really killed that. So if you haven't seen that yet, I imagine if you're in this chat at this hour, you probably have. But just in case you haven't, go check that out because it came out pretty awesome, and it was like it's a good way to kind of relive the spectacle of that day.
Yeah, let's put a little parenthesis just because I haven't done a good job enough of just sharing it just because I've been kind of busy with my birthday festivities this weekend. But when I'm telling you that it got me teary-eyed. It really did.
Got the music going, yeah.
Yeah, I freaking texted Noah and I was like, you guys are, a-holes. You guys got me crying. I mean, it was really good. Well done. It was fun, and got my daughter and my wife to watch it. It was pretty cool. They all enjoyed it.
Hell yeah, appreciate that, man. Yeah, we were stoked on how it came out. Malcolm, thank you so much for the $1.99 super sticker to get the super chat game kicked off here this morning. Appreciate the support. All right, Nico, should we get into it? We got a lot to talk about, so let's dive right on in. Before we do that, Bad Sequels with the $4.99 says happy belated, Nico. Yeah, happy belated, Nico.
Thank you. Well, it's actually Tuesday, which is kind of cool because
so it's coming.
Tomorrow is for the Miami game, but we celebrated on the weekend just because it's usually a big boxing match for my birthday, and this was no different. It was Canelo Crawford, so yeah, we had a good time, man. We had some good food. I was hurting Sunday, but I'm back to just being good.
Our birthdays are 2 days apart. Mine's on Thursday. I didn't know that.
Yes, absolutely. So it's just the 18th?
Yeah.
All right.
That's,
Look at that.
And my mom's is the 21st. It's big birthday week in the Lobbing Scorchers community, I guess.
I love it.
All right. Now let's talk about this Galaxy game, Nico, because I think there's a lot to get into here. Obviously an unfortunate ending. Seattle goes up 2-0 in the first half. They give one up, protecting a 2-1 lead late. And then they give up an 87th minute equalizer, which let's just say not an ideal goal to concede. And also kind of, it's like we're really back to the regular season. During Leagues Cup, they kind of stopped doing that stuff. But that was something that if you can go all the way back to the first game of the year against Charlotte FC, and that pretty much exact scenario played out. And there's been a handful of other instances kind of similar to that this season. Before we talk about it, I did want to play the clip from Brian Schmetzer's presser of him breaking down that last goal, because it was honestly one of the most fire Schmetz breakdowns I have ever heard. He cooked. He absolutely cooked. I don't even know if he got asked about it. He went into that presser ready to cook on that, and he literally gave a point by point breakdown, complete with naming every single person who was at fault. That really, I think it explained it in a much better and more detailed way than I ever even could. So I'm actually going to give Schmetz the floor right here, and then we're going to break down the end of that game. But this is honestly, this was absolute flames from Schmetz. So I just wanted to play this. All right.
But the mistake happened way up here or out by the touchline. And I don't know who could have kept the ball in or not or whatever. I don't know. I didn't see that far in advance. But that's a terrible goal. That is an absolute terrible, terrible, terrible goal to give up. So that won't happen again. And then since we're on the goals, we'll just go to the first one. Was it a foul? Was it not a foul? Some of the fans were upset about the refereeing. The referees don't lose games. They had a trick play. It was obviously a trick play. And, our guys' ability to, understand and have vision in their defending and understand where the dangerous spaces are, where their players are. How about this? Just simple body language cues. When Paul Rothrock sprints to the ball, the guy wasn't ready to shoot. He doesn't need to do that, and they pass it right back to Paintsel. And then Kalani's tucked inside. Somebody comes out there. Kalani has no idea the guy's on the left. And then Steph's got to cover the near post, but there's nobody down on the goal, and it's life or death in the penalty box. Somebody's got to win that header. And they put us under pressure from some of their corner kicks. So we will be prepared for the remainder of the year, because I understand the importance of set pieces, and throw-ins are actually a set piece, and we'll make sure we're better.
Okay, I think that was actually the wrong part of the clip there. That was him talking about the first goal, but really,
the first. No, I think he starts off by talking about the second goal, and that's where he talks about every single player. I don't know if you want to try to find that clip, but if not, go ahead. Just bring it back while I just talk about it. But I love this by Brian. I think that Brian Schmetzer is all about control the controllables, and if there's anything in soccer that you can control, is set pieces, and that goes both ways. That goes on offense and on defense, and that's why in the Latin American community we say that set pieces are half a goal. That you should be working enough to make it that way, so you can do that. And then defensively, you can control everything, right? You can control where players go, who's covering who, where are your matchups, all of that. And the fact that, let's start off with that first set piece. It's honestly a little bit of a ball watching situation where, Kalani and I think it is Rothrock that are on the wall. And Fagundes does a good job at selling it. That he's just kind of going to pass the ball back, and they're going to take it in. He even does a little feint as he's going to go inside of the box, and then he goes out wide on the left side of their attacking end, and then on the right side of Kalani. And Kalani just stays watching the ball, and Fagundes goes unmarked for a long time. And then you got Christian back there, and you kind of see Christian point. He probably said, hey, let's watch Fagundes, but no one does. And that just kind of starts a trickle effect of that whole set piece just falling apart. So it's one of those things that, as you mentioned, this team has done in the past, right? You don't want the 2 goals that you gave up, one of a set piece, one of a throw-in. Those are huge no-nos when it comes to soccer. So I like the fire. I like the fact that he breaks it down and he's holding everybody accountable, because that's unexcusable for a team that's been so good, right? And it is kind of a defensive woe. It's a mental lapse of just not being completely on in those particular moments.
All right, I brought the Schmetz presser back a minute, so I'm gonna play that again. I think I didn't listen to the whole thing, but I'm pretty sure this is gonna be. We're gonna get I just need the part where he names everyone.
Yeah, you literally just missed it.
Yeah. It's right before
the set piece goal, the set pieces that they started. Obviously, the team wasn't prepared, and so that's on me. That goal came from a throw-in. And our setup on that throw-in, anybody can see it, was all wrong. We had Obed on the wrong side of the ball, Albert on the wrong side of the ball, center forward on the wrong side of the ball, Jesus Ferreira on the wrong side of the ball. Christian goes up and challenges. There's a gaping hole on top of the box. Ymar's got to step out. Now he's out of position. Nobody wins the duels in there. And then the sequence of, the ball bouncing around the box, then you can start to pick that apart. But the mistake happened way up here or out by the touchline. And I don't know who could have kept the ball in or not or whatever. I don't know. I didn't see that far in advance. But that's a terrible goal.
He cooked. I think he named more than half the guys on the field, but I to me that just underscores that's not one of those ones where you can blame on one guy. That is just a collective 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys like in the wrong place or making the wrong decision. And the end result was really I guess let's talk about where we're at with this, Nico, just in terms of how we feel about the drop points and the result, independent of what happened on the play, because I'll just start with where I'm at, which is if they go out tomorrow and win this Miami game, take all 3 points, then this is whatever. I'll let it go from the standpoint of what it means for the table, because if you had told me going into this set of 2 games right here where you got the Galaxy and Inter Miami on short rest, and you told me that you beat the Galaxy and tie Inter Miami and take 4 points out of those 2 games, I would be like, all right, that's fine. So if they go and they beat Inter Miami in Fort Lauderdale tomorrow and they take that exact same haul, I think it is water under the bridge. The larger issue of the defensive miscues that we've seen this season notwithstanding, but as far as what it means on the standings and the playoff race and the point total of all that, they can atone for this. They got a chance to atone for this on Tuesday against Inter Miami, and they can put themselves, I think, back on like the pace point wise that they needed to be on. But I do think there is the larger issue of the pattern of these things. There's been too many drop points from winning positions this year. There's been too many red cards. God knows no one got sent off in this game, so that's a positive.
That's a good thing.
That's a good thing. But it's just like, realistically, if you want home field advantage and you want to maximize your chances of making a deep run in the playoffs and making a play for MLS Cup and getting a little Leagues Cup, MLS Cup double this year, you can't, when you're ahead in the 87th minute, you need to see out the game. Like, so if they win this game tomorrow and they're able to cut out the error like they did in Leagues Cup, did they make a single error like that in Leagues Cup?
No,
it's almost like
they really didn't.
Yeah, it's almost like the only goals that they got scored on them in Leagues Cup were in the Cholos game. That kid hit like an insane shot. Remember that one? And then I don't even remember the other one they gave up. They gave up 2 goals the entire tournament, and their game management in those situations was flawless. It's almost like they just go into God mode in tournament time. They need the knockout factor to not have those situations, I guess. But like you can't live like that. You got to be. These games are really important right now. You are dogfighting with LAFC for that 4th spot. These other teams ahead of you in the West, they're going to be hard to catch. So this could come down. Home field advantage could come down to if you can fend off LAFC for that spot. They win their game on the road against San Jose, so it's essentially a home game for them, but they won their game. I stated it incorrectly on the post-game show. I was saying LAFC tied or left Seattle or something. Seattle is 1 point ahead, but they would be 3 points ahead if they had just not given up that goal at the end. So it's just like, again, it's one of those things where if you want home field advantage, you can't have situations like that, because now you're going into this. You got to fly across the damn country to play Inter Miami and the Crashout Barca Boys. They got obviously Suarez suspended, and Avila's got suspended too for a red card he got in their loss at Charlotte, which we're going to talk about that. So they're a little shorthanded, but this is a type of road trip where a draw is like a good result in most circumstances, and winning the game is just going to be very difficult purely because of the road trip, if nothing else. So that's where I'm at. Nico, how are you feeling in the aftermath of that 87th minute debacle?
I think that this team needed that, to be quite honest. I feel like let's start where Brian kind of went off. For those of you that heard him, that might not know what he's talking about in terms of all these players are on the wrong side of the ball, is because it's the 87th minute. There's a throw-in, and if you pause it, you can see Albert, you can see Ferreira, you can see all of those guys that are defending no one, and they're on the attacking end.
They were just vibing.
They're on the opposite side of where you should be, life or death. Let's hold on to this 2-1 lead. We got to be defending. We have to be on the ball. But there was a sense, and this is just my opinion, there was a sense of we're not going to lose this game, in my opinion. And he goes both ways. He goes both on how loosey-goosey that defense was at that particular moment, where usually you would see all these guys dropped in and defending somebody, and that puts Obed on the right side of the ball, that makes sure that when the ball gets over and everybody shifts together. There is no need for Kalani and I think it's Kalani and Yamar step to the same person. Yep. I mean, there is all of this breakdown that happens because of how you started the play, how you set yourself up. So that part was one thing. The other part where I thought the team maybe felt as if more chances are going to come was offensively. The Danny Musovski miss, like it's fine. It happens. It is a thing of sometimes when you have too much time in front of goal, you kind of are trying to figure out how you're going to put it away, and that's kind of what makes elite strikers is kind of putting those away all the time. But that is at a whole different level. So Musovski obviously misses that one. The Rothrock one was a little bit harder in the first half, but the one that I thought was odd was Alex Roldan has one on top of the box. He's dribbling into the 18, and Rothrock is by himself coming in. If he makes that pass, that's a goal. But he decides to take it on his own. And I'm not trying to like come down on Alex. I just think that those type of mental lapses happen because you're thinking, look, the more will come. So let me try to get mine. And he shoots the ball. He doesn't go anywhere. And then that kind of comes back to bite the team in the behind when you end up giving an equalizer in the 87th minute. So there was a lot of opportunities that Seattle created that usually they put away. Yeah. But there was a sense of, I think we'll be fine. We're going to win this game. I thought the pressing also in the second half was less intense. They did a lot less on repress moments. I felt like they almost laid off the gas a bit, and you can't do that against a LA Galaxy team that, yes, they're playing for nothing, but you got guys in this team that are playing for their spot for next year. Fagundes wants to make sure that he continues to be in this team. We talked about it, right, before this game. There were going to be young players like Cerrillo that are just trying to make sure that they have a spot next year because there's so much talent and experienced players in those positions. So you got to come to play. So for me, this is where I stand. I think that you can grab this game and make it a huge learning lesson, because although throw-ins and set-piece goals are the worst type of goals that you want to give up, they're the easiest to fix, because you can literally pause and say, where are you? This is where you should be. What happened here? Next time, this is where you need to be. So it's very correctable. So I'm hoping that, knowing the way Brian was banging that pencil and that desk, he's going to make it a point of, this will never, ever happen again. And that makes the team better for the close of the MLS season and then going into the playoffs. So on the positive end, I thought that regardless of, the LA Galaxy did a good job of compressing the field a little bit. They pressed them well.
They played pretty well overall, to be fair. Like,
absolutely. They were closing down spaces.
I think a draw was a fair result, like, given the balance of play. Like, the 2 games in LA that Seattle won, Seattle was controlling the run of play pretty much the whole time. They looked like the home team when they were on the road. This game was not really like that. Like, LA had way more of the game. They were a lot better in possession. Seattle's press, like you said, wasn't as effective in the second half. And in fact, like, their counter pressing was pretty good, and they were just a lot better in possession. So I do think you have to credit them.
You do. Yeah. And these are the type of games that the Seattle Sounders will run into, and that's why I love soccer, because it's not linear. You know, you can have a phenomenal game against PSG because you're at a certain mindset. You can dominate Messi, and although it was a game where Inter Miami missed some opportunities, you were still extremely good at what you were trying to do. The game plan worked perfectly because you were a different mindset. And then you have the LA Galaxy, a team that's been, in the dumps, and then they equalize on you late. So those are the things that Seattle has to figure out. And I think it is a learning opportunity moving forward. But staying on the positive things, I thought the Ferreira's movement was very good. The goal that they put together was very good. Everything about that goal, that first goal by the Seattle Sounders, it's a pickup by Alex Roldan. He gets forward, sees the space to put it in through a couple of defenders. Yoshida tries to get it and cannot get it because the pass by Alex Roldan is perfectly paced, is perfectly placed, and leads Musovski perfectly. And then Musovski, a guy who I always criticized for not doing the other things, love the way he just checks his hip. He sees Ferreira. He's patient. He drops the ball again with perfect pace, and Ferreira just puts it away. Ferreira is a guy that we talked about, that he has not reached his full potential. Love the goal. Love the run. Love the finish. And then the second goal as well. Look, Stefan Frei does a lot of things that maybe people don't realize. The distribution that Danny Musovski miss in front of goal happens off of a good ball into the midfield, into the perfect space for Paul Rothrock to go get it. Paul Rothrock flicks it, gets it behind the defense, and then Danny Musovski has a whole bunch of open field to run into and try to score that goal. I thought Paul Rothrock was very good the whole game. He had that miss, but he had a goal taken off. He was absolutely offside. That's maybe it goes against him a little bit if you're a coach. But just he's putting himself in all the right positions. So love Paul, love Obed Vargas. He slips in that second goal. That it's a very savvy pass to kind of slip in Paul Rothrock. And Paul Rothrock with his body, he's telling Obed, I see you, you see me. And it's a very good play to end up getting that easy ball for Musovski to just kind of push in. So the offensive movements were very good. I thought that defensively, for the most part, they were holding on well. Kalani did not have his best game. I'll say that. I think he was out of position a lot of times. But I think that this team continues to show why they have been as good as they have. And although there were mistakes in this one, there was a lot of good moments that Seattle can take from and continue to build the rest of the season.
Matthew with $4.99. Thank you, Matthew. Appreciate all your support here this morning. He says, could have been worse. 0 points would have been much worse. Plus, looked like great offensive movements and fluidity.
Yes.
Yeah, like, I think if there is a positive from this game, even if it might not feel like it in the aftermath of a concession like that, is that, yeah, I thought the performance offensively was actually still really good. They only got 2 goals, but the chance generation was good. The XG was cooking. Like, the movement was good, especially in the first half. They looked, I thought, pretty much like the team that we saw in Leagues Cup that was carving everyone up, dicing everyone up. Like you mentioned, Ferreira getting a goal, I think that was important. That was I was on a Galaxy podcast where they asked me like X factor for Seattle. That was who I said, Jesus Ferreira. I said that I wanted to see him get a goal in this game. Wanted to see him get him rewarded for all the hard work that he's been doing, kind of the dirty work for this team, and he's been snake bit. Like, I would argue he's pretty unlucky to not have at least 3 or 4 more goals this year. So it was just good to see him be a part of a sequence like that. Unselfish play from Moose, great finish from Ferreira. Hopefully that gets him going. I thought that was a great sign. It was really good, great to see Albert Rusnak and Jordan Morris back on the field, just in general. You know, they didn't play that many minutes, but I thought Jordan looked pretty sharp. He had that one header that was, it was right at the goalkeeper, but just seeing him, you know, in that position, getting a shot on target, that was good. I think that should theoretically give this team a boost as well. So it's not.
What about Georgie Benungu's bicycle kick? Man, I really thought that was going to go in.
Ooh,
that was a great resource for that sort of play. It wasn't him trying to show off or nothing. It was just the perfect resource for that sort of ball. And man, if he puts that away, man, he breaks down the stadium. I mean, it was that good. It was very close. I thought that once again,
it was really not high. It was not that high. It was like
no, it was right there.
Yeah.
But I think once again, Brian brought in made the right choice on substitutions. It just ended up not working out for him. But once again, I thought that the timing of the substitutions was good. It was good to see Nuhu back as well there to just close the game. And what I mean by back, meaning just in that role of like, we got to close it down, let's put him in. He obviously has a little bit to do with one of the goals, and you heard Brian talk about it. But at the end of the day, I think that this team, as they get healthier, man, if they can put together the right team, the right mentality moving forward. I look at the West, and is up for takes. Anybody can really do that. I mean, there are good teams. I'm not saying that they're not. And there's teams that have done it throughout the whole season, which is, a whole other type of credit to a team like San Diego. But then you saw them kind of, fall apart here this weekend, right? So they are unbeatable. And Dreyer can have a bad game because he did against Minnesota. And
they lost that game at home, 3-0.
They lost that game at home, and Minnesota, they did it with less than 1% XG, as they're typically, used to doing it, because they're just effective on the ball. But Seattle, they've had issues with that sort of lineup before, but they've also been able to kind of grow. So I think that the Seattle Sounders are contenders to win the West, but they're gonna have to get away from games like this one where you miss opportunities, you play great in parts of the game, and then you have defensive mistakes just because you're not 90 minutes into a game. So I think, all things aside, this Tuesday game will be important against Inter Miami. It felt like they were going to rotate heavily for it, but I think that the draw maybe changes the way you approach that game, and maybe you see a lot more of that stronger, closer to your starting 11 lineup.
The Minnesota United thing is like actively starting to piss me off. Like just the way they play. Like we all saw it when they played Seattle and beat Seattle and really got like a good glimpse of those tactics. Like you said, they won this game at San Diego, giving up 70% possession and putting up less than 1 XG. And it's like, you can't hate on what's working. Like obviously they figured out a formula that works. They've been using that to great effect all season. Every week I'm like, there's no, like they're doing a bit at this point. They're doing a bit. They never have the ball. They basically, all of their danger that they generate comes off set pieces. That's it. They don't generate anything from the run of play. Like pretty much all their games look somewhat like the one that they played against Seattle, except they're usually able to just nick a couple more goals or at least one more goal through some other, it's either a set piece or just like maybe a counter or something on rare occasions. It's like they can't keep getting away with this type situation. Like you look at the stats at the end of the game and you're like, there's no way that they won that game 3-0. There's no way. And they keep doing it. So I guess until someone figures out how to stop it, they're going to keep doing it. But I will say, just if we're talking about other Western Conference contenders, I have a hard time believing you can win an MLS Cup like this. Like when you get to the playoffs and you're playing the other elite teams in the league, I feel like there's going to become a point where they're going to need to be able to like get on the ball, knock it around, actually have some possession and try and generate danger like a normal team. If they can prove me wrong. I will eat my words on that. But I refuse until they do it. I refuse to believe that you can win a trophy playing like that team plays. Like it's ridiculous. Again, I struggle with it because it clearly works. They're taking results with it. They have all year. But God, I hate watching them play.
Yeah, look, I used to feel like you, a long time ago, I used to be all about the beautiful game and the way you should play it. But the reality is that, as St. Clair said after the game, the beautiful thing about soccer is that there's more than one ways to win it. And, they have an identity. They know how to do it. And, Jose Mourinho would disagree with you. I mean, that's how with Inter Milan, he was able to beat Barcelona. It was with a team that played that sort of style where, it was against the run of play. It was defensively. It was about, getting Diego Milito a couple of opportunities and he put it away. And they beat the gorgeous, beautiful soccer of Barcelona, for a title. So those are the things that I feel like, look, if Ramsey, who has clearly found the perfect equation to get his team the biggest chances to win, then they're a dangerous, team. And just like the tush push, you might hate it, but if it's unstoppable, it's unstoppable, right? So you got to figure out a way to stop it. And Minnesota has lost games, right? Because they do put themselves in this corner where if they don't put away 3 out of the 4 chances they got in the entire game, then it's a completely different ball game. And that effectiveness is hard to keep up with, right? So if Pereira can continue to play well and Jabot continue to play well, that that happens. But in the playoffs, if you're having a bad game, then it's going to come back to bite you in the behind. And that's where Seattle needs to be able to have a lot of patience and move the ball around. You heard Brian talk about it in this press conference where he's like, sometimes we need to just bring it by, recycle it, swing it to the other side, change the point of attack, and then find that space to get in. So, yes, it's frustrating. I get it. And I know the fans probably hate that sort of soccer. But at the end of the day, I do believe that this Sounders team is going to have to figure out how to beat a team like that because you will see them in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I mean, they beat San Diego 3-0 in San Diego. So I guess far be it for me to question how you get to a result like that. Not many teams have been able to win there this year, and they did it like pretty easily. So we'll see. We'll see if Eric Ramsey and the gang can actually win a trophy doing a bit. It seems like they actually might. So we're going to find out come playoff time. Nico, let's talk about Inter Miami and the Crashout Barca Boys. Rematch coming up tomorrow in Fort Lauderdale. And dude, this team I think they might be spiraling right now. I think they might actually be spiraling. They got smashed on by Seattle in the League's Cup final, famously. We all know that 3-0. And they go out back east, road match in Charlotte this weekend, and
they got outplayed.
It went about as poorly as it possibly could have. There was one of the greatest sequences I've ever seen in that game when Inter Miami, it was 0-0, and Inter Miami got awarded a penalty kick, as they are known to be awarded. And Lionel Messi steps up to take it, takes a deep breath, does his whole Lionel Messi pre-penalty kick routine, does his run up, tries a Panenka, and Christian Kalina is like, all right, I'll take that. A Panenka that gets saved is one of the funniest things in soccer. Lionel Messi getting a Panenka saved against Charlotte FC is it's a great moment. It's a historic moment. We should all appreciate that clip. If you haven't seen that highlight, go look it up.
Kalina took that ball home. There's no way he didn't take that ball home.
Oh yeah. He was pumped up. And then Toklamati, who's apparently the best striker in the league, he immediately scores on the other end. The missed penalty just really seemed to crater Inter Miami. They end up getting rolled on 3-0 again for a second straight game across all competitions. You do love to see it, Nico. But also, it's just like, as far as it relates to Seattle, they're going to play this team tomorrow for a Tuesday game randomly. And it's a team that is, there's something going on. There's something going on behind the scenes. There's something going on mentally. Like, they are not in a good way right now, but kind of in this sort of way where it feels like the whole operation could just go completely off the tracks. That's kind of the vibe. And say they lose this game to Seattle, just hypothetically, even by multiple goals, what is going on with them? Like they actually, if they lose this game, they could actually see their season go fully off the rails. So it's a big opportunity for the Sounders in that way. But I guess, what do you just before we talk about the matchup specifically, like, what do you just make of what's up with Inter Miami? Because for me, like, seeing them lose the Leagues Cup final that way, it was obviously a really bad L for them, but it's also like, realistically, a road trip that long, playing at Lumen Field, on turf or whatever. There's a lot of variables that you could point to that could explain what happened in the Leagues Cup final. They did make it to the Leagues Cup final. They've been playing at 1.8 or so points per game all year. So I was not really that locked in on the notion that would say much about their chances for the rest of the season. But after seeing that Charlotte game and now Seattle going into this game, I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, what do you make of what's going on with them right now?
This is what happens when you have a team that doesn't address needs and opts for getting high profile players, and feel that with that and Lionel Messi, it's enough to win the game. And when you have an unexperienced head coach as Mascherano that has a hard time adjusting in the run of games, that has been a clear flaw of his this season. You go against Charlotte, arguably the best home team in MLS. They have 9 or 10. They're on a 9-10 game winning streak.
They tied Seattle
at 9. It's 9. They tied Seattle's game winning streak at 9. They are a team that is going to be physical, that's going to close down on your midfield. They're going to play through you. I think Bronico is having a fantastic season for Charlotte. So what's wrong with Miami? It's the fact that, as I mentioned, they didn't address the needs in the defense, where they're just so open-ended that there is no clear setup that makes this team compact when they have to defend, whether it is on transition, whether it's an emergency defense. They just have a hard time. I think that Avalos has run off his hinges. I mean, he just never let this guy get back in on the field. He, gets red carded. He is a guy that it's a gambler on the defensive end. So by you not even understanding that the only center back that you have is Falcone, because I can't think of anybody else other than Falcone that should be a starter for this team, then you have issues. And then you go back to the attacking end where you don't really have a finisher, and you continue to try to play agenda to be a finisher, and that's not his game. You saw it here. You saw it in this game against Charlotte.
Famously, not his game. Not
his game, right? So you just didn't address the things that you needed to address. Even if Suarez was there, Suarez had become more of a guy that becomes a pivot up top, right? He's gonna play off and allow the wingers to get in, and the midfielders.
He's like
absolutely. So that was another need that they needed to address. But instead, they went and got Rodrigo de Paul, and they broke the internet, and all of these things that were awesome for ticket sales and jersey sales, and all this globalization of the market. But at the end of the day, as I mentioned it here, and I mentioned in every show that I had, it was not going to get you an MLS title. And look, this is soccer, so I'm not going to dismiss that idea, but you didn't set yourself up to do it. So the East is so good, and from Philadelphia to Cincinnati, I just don't see them beating any of those teams. So at the end of the day, I just think that Miami is a incomplete team. They're disbalanced. There is a clear crack in that group, that it's almost as the players run the team.
Yeah,
Mascherano is just kind of there for show, but it's the players that are running this team. There's literally no discipline.
He's hanging out with his boys. He's hanging out with
he's hanging out with the boys. Exactly. So there's just so many things wrong with Inter Miami that it's all about what can the talent get us? What can individuality get us on the field? And that's just not good enough to play teams that are collectives, just like Charlotte, just like Seattle, and so on and so forth.
It's so funny that Aviles got a red card in Charlotte and is suspended for this game, because if you remember, he was one of the preeminent crash out crybabies. I think he was crash out crybaby number 3. I thought that was Allende originally, but that was
me too,
Aviles, and he somehow avoided a suspension in league play that would have suspended him for this game. Suarez did get suspended for this game, but Aviles and Busquets somehow did not. So, he was just imparting the discipline that he should have gotten the whole time. He shouldn't have been playing in this game anyway. So now he's not going to be. That's just another loss for them. I think you also have the issue of, Mascherano doesn't really load manage Messi at all.
Because you can't.
Yeah, and Messi, he has some self-imposed policy, as I understand it, where he's like, if I'm playing, I play 90, because if I don't play 90, I've found that I get injured easier. So you will never see Messi sub out of a game, pretty much ever. So he'll play the full 90 in this game tomorrow, I have no doubt. But how effective, is he going to be able to be his maximum effective playing on short rest, coming off a pretty long road trip? Maybe. I don't know. But you don't have Aviles. You don't have Suarez, who, like we were talking about, that's their main creator at this point. Their number 10, it's not even Messi. Messi's playing a little more advanced usually, or he kind of floats around a lot, but Suarez is their central playmaker. He's been getting their assists all year, and then Messi kind of just does his own thing. Like you said, there's no identity, I guess it feels like. When you think about what does Inter Miami do, what do they hang their hat on, it's not like a tactical identity. It's we have Lionel Messi, and we just kind of give him the ball and watch him do cool stuff. To the extent they have a system, that appears to be what it is. And I don't. It doesn't matter how much individual talent, like you said, you have on a team. You need to have a coherent system, coherent identity, and they've been dealing with the issue of not really having that for a while. And it speaks to the talent that they do have, that they've still been out 1.8 points per game all year, kind of in spite of these issues. But all of this is to say, this was always going to be a hard game for Seattle. It's still going to be a hard game for Seattle. A road trip this long, this is the second longest distance road trip that you can take in all of MLS. So that right there, that makes it a game where taking 3 points is always going to be a tall order. But if there is any juncture where this version of Inter Miami with Lionel Messi out there could be vulnerable, them coming off 2 straight games where they lost 3-0, including in a cup final, to this Seattle team, and then got just absolutely slammed on in Charlotte. Messi misses the Panenka. He's probably just all around not that happy with the state of affairs currently. I have to imagine they're going to have to deal with whatever the consequence of that is going to be. But for now, like the way I feel about this game is like if they don't win it, I wouldn't be super shocked just because of like the lengthy road trip obstacle, but you should be able to take a result. Like this is a wounded animal, this team right now. Like they are down bad, and it's an opportunity also to really just send them into a tailspin. That's what I would like to see. Everyone loves a good downfall, especially coming off their Leagues Cup final crash out. I definitely wouldn't mind the downfall. So as for this game itself, Nico, how are you feeling about the matchup and Seattle's prospects of taking any result, but also maybe even winning this game, which when we looked at the schedule at the beginning of the year, I was not thinking that this game would be all that likely to win. But now I'm looking at it and I'm like, this team, they're crashing out. They're spiraling.
Yeah, I think that red to Aviles just kind of gave Seattle yet another advantage on this team. I don't know what that backline's going to look like. It might be Busquets back there next to Falcon. They've done that in the past, and maybe they'll try to overpopulate the midfield. I just, to me, this game, it is extremely winnable. I get it. Look, it's Messi, and I'm curious if he'll play, to be quite honest.
That's what I was wondering. Like, I'm
curious if he'll play. Because sure, like part of me says, yes, Messi's going to want to redeem himself, and he's probably upset about everything that happened here. But then there's another part of me that says, look, this is Messi. And he's thinking, am I going to put myself in a position where, once again, without Luis Suarez, Busquets probably playing farther back, I'm going to put my face, me being this guy that loses again to this Sounders team?
Yeah.
I don't know. It seems like a lose-lose, but yeah, so I'm curious to see. I would applaud him playing this game, saying, look, this is my team. I'm the face of this franchise. I'm going to get us through it. I'm going to be the magic. But I would not be surprised if he doesn't play this game. Using rotation as a excuse, or, whatever it is. I don't know if he's going to play.
Because from his perspective, with Aviles now out of there, Aviles isn't that good, but he is like a starter for them. There, even if he feels like, all right, I'm that guy, obviously I need to get revenge against this team, I'm going to go pop off in this game. He also probably knows better than anyone that the struggles that Inter Miami have defensively. So it's like, you could go out and get a couple goals or get a hattie and still not take a win in this situation with that defense down a starter, not that good anyway. Busquets, we saw, remember when they dropped him back in the Leagues Cup final? How did that one work out?
Not very
that
good.
Well, he got absolutely bammed on by Paul Rothrock. So like and that is what they're going to do to cover for Aviles. I love that matchup for Seattle offensively, with how they've been playing offensively, like going against a center back duo of Sergio Busquets, 43-year-old crash out crybaby, and Falcon, who I don't think he's fine. He's like a replacement level MLS center back, kind of air prone in his own right. And then you got Ian Frei, who got absolutely barbecued by Pedro de la Vega all day long in the Leagues Cup final. That's another matchup that I love. But on that exact note, do you know what's going on with De La Vega? Because he was not even in the Matchday squad for this game. We know he's had this knee tendonitis issue. Is he going to play in this game, or is there something up with that? Do you know?
Again, tendonitis is, I guess, chronic, you can call it. It's just something that a lot of players get, that they have to play through, and it's a pain management type of injury. It's just something that you deal with, and some weeks are better than others, and some weeks you might be held up. You might hurt a little bit more. It looks like Pedro de la Vega this week, he was okay till Friday. On Friday, he was a partial participant in training. He did a lot of things just on his own. So there was probably a spike on that pain level on that tendonitis, and that's why he was held off. As far as I know, it's just something that he's going to have to deal with. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's either on the bench or starts on Tuesday, unless they figure out that it's better to just rest him until the Austin game, which is a bigger game, a game that obviously is a conference game. So yeah, that's kind of what it is. It's nothing that people should be worried about that is going to, not allow him to play. It's just something that he's dealing with, and it's something that a lot of soccer players deal with.
Well, whoever's out there, hopefully cooler heads prevail in this match. I mean, we know how it can go against these guys. You got some angry old men between the ages of 38 and 45, and they'll take swings out there. They'll punch a 20-year-old and maybe spit on people. You never know. So let's just hope that there's no brawl, follow up or fallout, and it's just a good, hard fought, competitive game. And we'll see if the Sounders can get a result. All right, Nico, let's have this goalkeeper debate, and then real quick at the end, we'll talk about a couple of these other MLS results. But I think the big positional debate going on right now is this ongoing competition between Stefan Frei and Andrew Thomas. I kept calling him Andy T on the last show. I forgot that he doesn't like Andy. Andrew Thomas and Stefan Frei, ongoing competition between the posts. And I think this kind of came up after the way this Galaxy game ended, with how much of a defensive debacle that was. How much of that do you put on the goalkeeper? I went back and watched both of those concessions a lot of times, and I don't know, I didn't see anything that I necessarily attribute to the goalkeeper on one hand, but I guess just to present the counter argument, you have this League's Cup run where Andrew Thomas is in there and the defense is pretty much flawless. Everything looked very controlled the whole time. They didn't have these individual errors at all. And then you have this Galaxy game where it's Frei in there again, and you have a couple of these situations where the defense is a mess and it's all out of sorts. And it's like, I think some people are thinking, should we just be riding the hot hand in this situation? Like, we had a setup where the defense was looking lights out. Why even tinker with that at all? Even if you don't know what caused what happened against the Galaxy, should you be messing with the setup that you know is working? And then on top of that, you have a situation where it's an heir apparent situation. This Andrew Thomas is going to be taking over as the starter probably next year. Like I would imagine. We'll see how they handle it, but I think the writing is sort of on the wall with that. Nico, where do you come down on that? Should Frei still have the starting job, like no questions asked, for the rest of this year, or should Andrew Thomas take it over? Schmetzer's talked about how this is one of his tougher coaching decisions that he's had to make, and he's still kind of in the process of evaluating it. And to my knowledge, there's been no clear-cut decision made. What do you think? What should they do?
I continue to state that Steph stays on. I think that when it comes to the bigger games, when it comes to directing traffic, when it comes to the leadership component, when it comes to distribution, particularly, I think Stefan Frei is more than just a goalkeeper. And yes, the difference between Andrew Thomas and Stefan Frei is obvious, right? Is the athletic ability, is the ability to take certain shots, to stop certain shots. That he's such a great shot stopper. His PK stopping ability, his ability to go out there and get the ball in certain chances, right? In this particular game, there is a breakdown, but Brian does point to the fact that maybe Steph should have been defending that near post, and you kind of have to go get that ball. So I understand the argument. That said, I think that Stefan Frei has yet to do anything to lose the job consistently. I think that Andrew Thomas is a guy that would even rather just let Steph have the rest of this year, and then next year take on that torch and keep it lit with very likely Stefan Frei as his backup. And I think that's the perfect situation. But to me, I understand that Andrew Thomas just won you a Leagues Cup, and I understand that in this industry, it's all about what have you done for me lately. In industry, I mean sports in general, it's what have you done for me lately. But Stefan Frei is a guy that I would feel more comfortable dealing with certain situations, dealing with certain games. Playoffs in MLS are as hard as it gets. And if there's anybody who knows how to play those games, a guy like Stefan Frei. So for me, he's the choice. You let him ride the wave until the end of the season, and then you move on next year.
Yeah, I still trust Stefan Frei in a big game or a playoff scenario. There's just he gives you a sense of calm, security, like you kind of know what you're going to get. That is, I think that's important in big games. He's played so many games with these guys. They all know how to play together. And, you know, I tend to agree that that's how they should do it. And I think that's what they will do. I mean, I don't know, looking at either of those goals they conceded against the Galaxy, did you think that there was anything on the goalkeeping that could have been done differently that maybe Andrew Thomas might have done? Because I don't know, I looked at it and I didn't see much that way, but people were saying that there was. So
no, again, that what I just mentioned about just defending that near post, but you can't say whether Andrew Thomas would have reacted that way, because that's kind of the funny thing about goalkeeping, that it's not just about my ability to get from point A to point B and go in and pick that ball. It's about reading and understanding and reacting, and those things a lot of times are not as easy as it may seem. So for me, yes, could you say that Andrew Thomas would have gotten to that ball? I can't say that. I can't. Could he have physically maybe got in there? Maybe, but I just don't know if the way that play broke down allows a goalkeeper to make one specific read on it, right? For me, this was not on the goalkeeper. There's things that the goalkeeper could have done a little bit better, but it doesn't prevent the goal necessarily, right? So I don't think either goals are on Stefan Frei. He gets mentioned by Brian Schmetzer because there is that sense of could have he gotten there. But I wouldn't say that Andrew Thomas would have stopped that goal or would have made that goal go away. So, yeah.
I mean, the equalizer was just like a comedy of errors, like 6 in a row by 7 different guys.
Oh yeah,
I think I said
that's no.
I think I said after the game that it looked like the Bad News Bears. Like, I mean, that's pretty much that sequence was less than ideal defensively. But you know, you got to just toss it in the bin, move on. You got Inter Miami and the Crashout Barca Boys coming up on Tuesday. Why is this game on Tuesdays? Was that just because of their schedule earlier this season?
I wouldn't say it has something to do with is it in the U.S. Open Cup final? I mean, I don't know. I mean, they had to push one of the Sounders game out. I don't know. I'm not really sure. Especially sure Tuesday at 4:30 here is just messed up.
It's weird, but
I don't like it.
Yeah, I can't say I'm the biggest fan of a Tuesday 4:30 kick, but you know, far be it for me to question. I guess it's kind of like Minnesota United. You just got to let them cook on their methods. But I mean, I guess it is kind of, you know, you get it at the beginning of the week instead of on the weekend or like right midweek. So there's a little bit of novelty to it. But
Ari, how many? I mean, if people are there and they're listening, I'm kind of curious what the chat has to say. Chat, if moving forward, you got to pick who takes the reins at goalkeeper, who would it be? Steph or Andrew Thomas? I just want to know.
Yeah, let's do a poll. Drop your answers in chat. So far, a couple people have already done that, and there's people kind of campaigning for Andrew Thomas.
Sure.
So far, and like, yeah, there's valid arguments
100%.
both ways. Like, you don't want to get in a situation where you're clinging to some like a less effective option just because it's worked for you in the past. Like you said, it's a lot of what have you done for me lately? Andrew Thomas has done a lot for me lately. He was the one running the show for this entire Leagues Cup run. So all right, we got
and look, he's came up huge, right? In huge games, right? And he seems to have that almost persona when he's on the field, because he's super nice like after the game, but it feels like when he's in the game, he's just like he's out there looking like Thor, and he's just got this like ability to just manage situations, and it's great. I love it. I really do. The margins between both of them are very clear of what maybe you get out of Steph and what you get out of Andrew Thomas, and that's what we're having that debate. What the reason why I stick with Steph is just because there are certain situations at the goalkeeping position, and that's why you see a lot of older goalkeepers. When it comes to center backs and goalkeepers, it's kind of like fine wine. Some the older they get, the better they get, and I think that a lot of it has to do with circumstantial play and understanding of reacting to certain moments. And in that category, I like to have my older goalkeeper, an experienced goalkeeper, but I totally understand the nuance of wanting the more athletic, the guy that's going to get to the ball quicker, the guy that has the bigger, I guess, bounce, if you want to call it. In Spanish, it's resorteo, is the guy that just can get to that ball a little bit quicker. So I get the debate. I get it.
Yeah, it's a good debate. I think the most likely outcome is what a couple people have mentioned, which is that Frei's going to get the reins to see this season out and into the playoffs. And then I think next year it's a situation where we'll see what Frei decides to do, but he's said, I think, on record that he plans on playing next year. And I think if that's the case, going into next year, it becomes a discussion of like, does the torch need to be officially passed? It's just kind of tough to pass the torch in season when there wasn't really like a performance related reason to make a switch. Some people feel about this differently. Like I feel like Frei's been pretty much like normal Frei this year. There's a lot of talk on like his mobility, like if he's able to move around and get to these balls like he used to. I think there might be a couple cases where you could point to that. To me, that has not seemed like a recurring pattern. I don't know. Do you see that aspect of it differently? Because there are some people out there, and I'm not saying it's invalid, but there are some people out there who would contend that his decreased mobility compared to where it used to be have been like a negative for the team this year.
Whoa, yeah, that's too much. I mean, I wouldn't think is a negative for the team. I think that there have been situations where, look, Father Time is undefeated, and it's clearly something that gets to everyone, and he certainly doesn't have that the mobility that he did maybe a couple of years ago. He talked about it himself about physical aches and pains that he's had to deal with from the beginning of the season moving forward. But I do know, and I do understand that the goalkeeping position, you can react to strikes differently, and you can account for that lack of mobility. Maybe you've lost a step, so you got to readjust a little bit quicker. Maybe you have to come up at the ball a little bit different. So there are things that him and Tommy Dutra work with all the time. And I mean, I get to see it. We both get to see it first time, right? We get to see these guys work, all three. If you were to just simply go off of athleticism, I mean, Jacob Castro would be the number one goalkeeper, but that's not the case, right? Because Jacob Castro looked like he could probably play for the Seahawks as a wide receiver, but at the same time, when it comes to goalkeeping, he's much more than that. He's understanding on how the ball spins and understanding how to get to certain balls. It's about distribution with your feet, distribution with your arms. It's about directing traffic, understanding how you move within the box. I mean, all those things that Thomas is great. But I just happen to think that Stefan Frei for the rest of the season would be the better choice. And you allow Andrew Thomas to follow up. And then next year, you see where that goes.
All right. Nico, any other thoughts on Seattle and either this Galaxy game or Inter Miami game before we jump into some league wide stuff to close it out here? Did we miss anything regarding the Seattle Sounders?
No, not necessarily. Obviously, the Pedro de la Vega thing we talked about, and that's going to be an interesting one. Jordan Morris, does he get increased minutes? He obviously got on and didn't get to play much. So do you give him 20? Do you give him 15? Do you rest him and I don't know, play him more against Austin? Do you start him? I mean, I don't know. I think those are the things that maybe we'll look into. Clearly, he's not ready to start, but I'm just saying that Jordan Morris is one of those things that you do want to look at in this particular game. The midfield, the pivots, Christian Roldan, it's another game where he is all over. Can you maybe slide Snyder in there in this one? That's going to be interesting. How heavy the rotation will be would be interesting. But aside from that, no, I think we covered everything.
They're going to run the Christian Obet double pivot. We already know that. There's 0% chance that anyone. The rest of the lineup, I don't know, but that I do know. But I am really excited to see what Jordan can bring to this offense. He's had really unlucky year. He's looked great every time he's played. He just has not been able to stay on the field. So here's to hoping that he can stay healthy down the stretch here and bring a new element to this attack. Obviously, Osaze has been doing great. Like all of the number 9s this year have been in great form. But the way I see it, Jordan's just kind of like a more polished and a little more dynamic version of Osaze. So, I mean, if Osaze is banging in goals in this system, then what could Jordan do, And then also you throw in there that Rusnak is coming back, he and Jordan famously work very, very well together. So, it's one of those situations where people are saying like, oh, like another hot hand situation. But for me, it's like, if you just add these 2 designated player quality players into what you have right now, that could even elevate it. Jacob Stash coming in with the $5. Thank you for the support. Said Jordan brings a lot to final quality. Does bringing back so many dilute the magical water we have seen? Yeah, that's what I was just alluding to. But no, I don't see it like that. Like the way I see it is that you've been able to maximize what you've gotten out of Moose and Osaze. I mean, what is it now? You have 20 plus goals combined from the number 9s this year. You have like all comps. You have 16 from Moose at this point. You got 5 from Osaze, all comps, and 4 from Jordan. So that's like 25 goals from the number 9 position. Why were we ever even talking about Noah, Ohio? Like what? I mean, that was before Osaze broke out. I get that much, but I guess it's more interesting to see how they rotate that area of the field for the rest of this year. And then what happens next year? Because you got to imagine that there are other teams who are looking at what Moose and Osaze are doing and feeling like, damn, like we could really use those guys and we would pay them more money than whatever Seattle's paying them for them to come do that for us. So I guess, do you have any thoughts on that? Like either how
I think it's interesting because look, I've been saying that you're going to have to figure out what you do with Danny Musovski, because sure, you activate his option, you keep him a whole other year, but as everyone knows, nobody likes to play on their option, and he's going to want to extend. He's going to want to figure out what's next. Those conversations are coming. I just would not bet that Musovski would have another season like this one. So
you're a Moose skeptic, though. You're a Moose skeptic. You're a non-believer.
Extremely.
You're a non-believer.
I'm a non-believer. Love that. That's funny. I am a non-believer when it comes to Musovski. So that's absolutely fair. Definitely bias on that end.
How many goals does he have to score for you to be a believer?
No, he could score 20 this year, and I love it. But just like I've said, look, Jeremy Lin had one fantastic season, and then it died. And I can give you a couple of other players that have, that were one year wonders that were fantastic. But consistency is the real thing in sports, and you can't really, bet on a player that hasn't had that throughout his whole career, and he has 1 year, and then you're willing to bet a lot on that, right? I mean, maybe he proves me wrong and he does a second year of just killing the league, but it's just not very high probability that happens.
He's never done it in his career, but to be fair, he's never played this many. This is the first time he's been given like as big a role as this, and maybe this is just who he's always been, but I mean, I hear what you're saying, like betting on a repeat of what could be an outlier, there's always an element of risk that comes with that. But for this team this year, it seems like he's really figured out how to get in those spots where, I mean, he's getting in these high XG positions as frequently and converting them as efficiently as any of the top number 9s in the league this season. Which is it an outlier? Is he a product of the system or the service he's getting? I don't know, but it is working for now. But then I think the question becomes like, are you going to give him like a huge raise under the notion that he's going to keep doing that? Are other teams going to be like, we'll give him an even bigger raise than that? Because I've been saying like a lot of these teams, we're going to talk about a couple of them in a second, but a lot of these teams, I could name a lot of teams in the league right now that could use a guy like Moose. Atlanta United paid $22 million for Emmanuel Latte Loth. I don't even think he's got half the goals as Moose right now.
I mean, you look at San Diego. San Diego lost that game against Minnesota because they don't have a 9 at the time.
I hadn't thought of that one, but that's that team with Moose. Ooh.
Yeah, they rely a lot on what Lozano does and what Dreyer does, and they just don't have that guy, right? Because they lost him to now Philadelphia. But when they had that guy that was killing the league there for a second, they were a much better team because he gives you that final end product, right? So sure, and that goes too. Because look, I don't want to take credit away from Danny Wasowski. He's been incredible. I would have never guessed that he's
been a godsend.
I would have never guessed that this is the type of season he would have had. And again, going back to just this weekend's game, it wasn't just the goals in this one. Is that ability to just kind of check your hip and understand where you need to put the ball. I mean, those are the things that I'm looking beyond even just putting in a easy tap in. It's all the other stuff that I'm looking for. And I even like the fact that he tries stuff, right? He might try to get through, and he figures out he doesn't got the speed. Those are things that I'm looking for in a 9. But the reality is that his ceiling is topped out, and moving forward, I mean, you're hoping that you can continue to keep him on, obviously, as a guy that you can rely on. But yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, it's a question of how much you want to invest into that situation. That's what they're going to have to decide. Like you said, he has an option, or he's under contract for 1 more year and then got an option. Is that what it is, or is the option for
no? The option is for next year, so that will obviously be activated, and then you figure out what you do with it, right?
But if I'm him and I'm his agent, I'm like, we're not playing on that number. Come on now. They're going to push an extension. I mean, that's just the way of the game, and you can. And they're in that situation with Paul Rothrock as well. So that, I mean, the off season is going to be lit. We're definitely going to keep doing these shows because there's going to be a lot of stuff with the roster. All right, Nico, to close it out real quick here, I did want to hit a couple of these other results that happened in match day 33. Like we were saying at the top of the show, it was a wild weekend in MLS. 57 goals or whatever. It was a record for one for one weekend. And there was 2 that caught my eye. Atlanta, Columbus, and Vancouver, Philly. Atlanta, Columbus. Columbus went up 5-0 inside 30 minutes. Atlanta United gave up 5 goals in 30 minutes at home to a Columbus team that is known as one of the better teams in the league, but really has not been for the last couple months or so. I don't think. I mean, there's no way though. Like, regardless of who you're playing, that 5 goals in 30 minutes can be a thing. Like, I don't even know what we're talking about at this point with that. But then Columbus made a bunch of subs and totally let their foot off the gas, gave up 4 goals in the they gave up 1 right before halftime, an Almiron PK, and then they gave up 3 more in the second half and only won the game 5-4. And they were so bad from the point that they went up 5-0 to where that's like, it's not a win that feels like a loss. I don't think there's such a thing as that, but they should not be happy about it. No one should come out of that game happy about what transpired. If you go up 5 goals in the first half, that game absolutely needs to be dusted. There's no way you can be in a situation where you're in danger of bottling a 5-goal lead in the first half. And the Columbus Crew, they literally almost did that. But I guess, you know me, I always want to talk about it from an Atlanta perspective because, I've been tracking their downfall this season pretty closely, and there's so many Seattle connections that I've been interested to follow with them over the last couple years. But 5 goals in 30 minutes at home, like, could you have even foreseen that it would get to this point down there? Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, it was a crazy game, and I think the downfall of Columbus starts with an injury to Diego Rossi, who, by the way, had a hat trick playing 42 minutes. So there were 4 hat tricks for 4 different players in MLS.
That's also a record.
Also a record. Mueller, Abuanga, the Charlotte kid, and Rossi. It was really something different, right? So for me, it starts there. I also think that when they take out Ali, Columbus misses their point man up top. I think that they give up way too much space. And I think Brooke Lennon coming in for Ronnie Hernandez was huge for Atlanta. Atlanta has this inability to use their width. They just don't have any players that can give the team width, right? So typically is Amador on the left, who's your fullback. And, you were hoping that Almiron would do some of that, but he's more of a pocket winger. So when Lennon comes in, I think he just changes the game for Atlanta. They get on the front foot. I do want to say that this was more of a circumstantial kind of vibes of the moment. I don't foresee Atlanta scoring 4 goals probably for the rest of the season because they've just been so bad, offensively. But it was a game where I think you're right between the injury to Rossi and Wilfred just kind of taking some pieces off and maybe laying off the gas a little bit allows Atlanta to come back into this game. But it was wild to see. I was happy to see Columbus hold on to the win because that would have been Wilfred Nancy's probably worst draw if they draw that game of his career because he was bad. That game was completely out of control.
Yeah, I mean, it was fun to watch from a neutral perspective, but I feel like it's a crazy situation to score 5 goals on the road and have to. He probably had to lash into the team in the post-game locker room after that, which is just not what you would expect when you score 5 goals in 30 minutes on the road. I don't know if I've ever seen that. And then you had this Vancouver Philly game, which the Whitecaps won 7-0. That
was the other
Seattle
hat-trick,
Sounders
versus
they Seattle Sounders versus Cruz Azul, the Philly Union, who it's just one of those MLS things because the Philly Union might win the Shield this year. They're either leading it or right up there leading it. I can't remember how it panned out after the weekend,
they're leading it,
but they're leading it.
They're still leading it.
Like MLS got to be, they're still leading it. So MLS got to be the only league where the team that is about to win the league potentially can go into a match and lose by 7 goals. Their lineup was super rotated. That is one of the longer road trips in the league in its own right. But I mean, even so, like, if Seattle goes and loses this game in Miami 7-0, I would be a little concerned. We would be on here talking about a lot of concerns, I would imagine. Do you have any concern about Philly, or is this just a fluke one-off? I tend to think it's a fluke one-off, but are you concerned about Philly? And also, do you think the Whitecaps mojo is kind of back with the Tommy Mueller hat trick and hanging 7 on the Shield leaders?
Yeah, yes to both questions. I do think that it was a fluke. I think that when you have a systematic team like the one that Cornell runs, certain players that are off make a huge difference. They were missing their best defender. I think that Ilowski had a very poor game. I think Indiana Vasilev was overly committed all game long and probably did more wrongs than right throughout it. So I think that this is one of those games that you take for what it is, the humiliation. Do you guys like what that feels like? Do you guys want to get beat like this? And you use it to just ignite the fire, keep the fire going, because they've been phenomenal all season.
Yeah.
But I do think that Vancouver a lot of credit goes to them. They put Philadelphia in a tremendous amount of pressure with the ball because they have, so much speed. They push the ball so quick. And I think Mueller does change the vibes, to your question. I think that the vibes are back because of a guy like Mueller who's just getting everybody riled up. I was very concerned when I forget his name now, the Ecuadorian player that ended up going to
Pedro Vite.
Pumas, Pedro Vite, left because a lot of that intensity wasn't quite there, right? And I think Berhalter has done a good job with Cubas especially in this game, to really get the ball progressively going. And I feel like that's something that he did well. Vite, and the way he added himself onto the attack was important. But I think now with Mueller, and what he's able to do offensively, they've really recapture some of that flair, some of that intercal play. Once they get going in transition is extremely quick. They create a lot of opportunities, right? So for me, yes, I think Vancouver, who I was doubting, by the way, I was absolutely doubting. In this game, I thought Philly was gonna have it, and they didn't. So for me, I think that once again, Sorensen has done his job at just getting the team right at the right time, and they're going to be a problem in the playoffs. They're going to be a real problem in the playoffs.
Yeah, turns out Thomas Mueller is quite skilled, quite good. I think it's so random but kind of fire that he picked Vancouver. It seems like what he did was he was just kind of like looking at MLS clubs, MLS cities, and was looking into research in Vancouver and was like, this seems like the coolest. He just like,
city.
Yeah, he just really was drawn to it for some reason. He was like, this is where I want to be. And they hit him up and they were like, hey, can I come play for you? And they were like, yeah, I mean, hell yeah. Like, but it seemed like it was, I mean, I'm sure they contacted him first, but it was like, he just had this kind of strange allure to I mean, I love Vancouver every time I've gone there. It is an awesome city, so I get it. It's just I've never heard of a player of that status that happening to the city of Vancouver before. So that's cool for them.
He caught me by surprise. Look, Mueller is a great name, but it's been a while since he's been extremely productive, and I honestly didn't know if he was going to come in with this sort of mentality. Sometimes when you get these European players, they'll come in here a lot like Lampard and Pirlo, and they just are just playing a game. They're collecting a check. They're doing their own thing. But man, his energy is different. I mean, the way he talks about it, and I know he's probably being facetious, but he talked about this being the greatest moment of his career or something like that. He's a World Cup winner, talking about that sort of situation. It's almost laughable, but you kind of do believe it just because of the way he plays the game and he rallies the troops and he's getting everybody going and excited, and they're all just cementing together. And I feel like this is one of those things where a team like Vancouver that's also more effective because of the collectiveness, right? They don't have any like outstanding, marvelous players until they ended up getting Mueller, right? And I mean, no disrespect to White or Gold or, all these guys, but, when it comes to superstardom, I mean, this is as big as he gets in Vancouver, but he's brought in more just in that stardom is more of that culture mentality. And that's dangerous, man, because that team looked like they could have put another 3. It could have been 10-0. I mean, that's how good they were. That's how much the volume of play was there. I think that the way Sorensen uses his fullbacks as well, with Ocampo pushing forward, and the way Savi comes in and out of the outside and the inside lanes. I mean, they're a difficult team to defend, man. I mean, this is the best defense in MLS. It's one of them, right? And they got put 7 on 7.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. Ian says Mueller name-checked Alphonso Davies for the Vancouver recommendation. I hadn't heard that. That makes sense. They played together at Bayern Munich. Alphonso Davies probably told him. Yeah. That's funny, like picturing them having that conversation. But that's sick. All right, Nico, we're going to call it right there for this episode of Lobbing Scorchers Kickoff. Thank you, everyone, as always, for tuning in. Appreciate all the support. We'll be back at it for post-game live tomorrow after Inter-Miami game. Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to give a shout out to Sean. I should have asked for your last name, but I met him there at Starfire. His daughter plays for Rush, and says he loves the show, loves Lobbing Scorchers.
Oh, hell yeah.
So really appreciate you, Sean. Thank you for listening and approaching me. I probably looked terrible because I was with barely any sleep, had been partying the night before. So, but I appreciate you coming over, saying hello. So thank you, Sean.
Shout out to Sean. Yeah. And anyone who sees us out in the world, always come say hi. All right. Yeah. Back at it tomorrow evening for the post game live. And then I'll be back at it for Under the Lights on Thursday. As always, thank you all for the support. Like, comment, subscribe, rate 5 stars, write reviews, follow us on Instagram and TikTok. And we will catch you tomorrow. Peace.
Some people come to Lumen Field for the tactics, for the soccer, the atmosphere. And some come for Paul Rothrock's hair. Me personally, I come for both, because I have agendas to push. Live soccer isn't just better, it's way more personal. From making friends to becoming the guy in your section that's just constantly yelling about advanced statistics. Get tickets to any Sounders match by visiting lobbingscorchers.com/tickets. You support the pod, our agendas, the vibes, and the chaos.